guys, welcome back to the farm. Hey, we're a mile directly east of the farm. 100 acres here. Grandpa bought in 1968, and I hold in my hands the deed transfer and the amount he paid for it. This is the piece that he ended up building a house on. Late 70s, early 80s. You remember, I'll jog your memory, I stopped in the middle of this field and there was a wet spot. Let me take these off. And I always said, I think must have been a house or a well or something back here. It's always wet. We can't seem to drain it. And the guy's like, cut a ditch. We do, and it's still wet. Well, you see that driveway there? Well, funny thing is, I had a little kid's birthday party well, a couple weeks ago. Invited a buddy of mine, carrot farmer, my buddy Craig, from the area. He's looking on his phone. He says, hey Kip, you ever seen this app? It's called Historic Aerials. I said, no, I've never seen that. And he kind of showed it to me, and I was busy with the kids, but I thought, man, I'm going to be able to use that. So lo and behold, I looked up this property. Now the pictures only go back to about 1950, and there's not a picture every single year, but there's quite a few. I go all the way up to present day, but 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Well, what got me going on this, I've been wanting to do a lot of history on my grandfather and how he started this farm. He's World War II, and trying to piece some things together. So I started getting online and digging, and I'm gonna do a full circle on his history, when he bought the main farm, the whole deal. The reason I'm jumping in this field, 1968, is because I just planted it and I just told you about it. I figured it'd be fresh in our minds. So I'm gonna show you me planting this and getting out and talking to you about it. Let me get to this point here. It's the only wet spot in the field. Been wet every single year. We think it's a natural spring, or we were picking up chunks of concrete up on this knoll. See how that goes up? And we think there was a foundation. So there was either a house or a barn way back in the day, and that could be a well that never got sealed up. So that's either a natural spring or a well, but my opinion, more than likely, there was a house. I mean, you're a ways off the road, but I've been down some back roads before, and I've seen some houses quarter mile off the road before that are still standing. So was that the case? God only knows. In the meantime, we got to go around it. So that was that. I had a lot of feedback, guys wondering, asking what that is. Now we're not even there yet. You see how far off the road we are. I've seen some farms built way off the road up here in the thumb of Michigan. That's where we're at. Beautiful rural Michigan country. Beautiful day, beautiful clouds. This is 100 acres. I got on the transfer, Grandpa paid $9,512.50 from the estate of George F. Clark, St. Clair County. So the guy was from St. Clair County, not far. Oh, probably the next road up is the county line. This is Lapeer County. So I did find that. I got most of these papers and all the original deeds, and some of these other fields I'm going to show you in the future. I've got abstract title booklets. Now, if you know what those are, they're extremely old. They've got it when the United States first deeded all the property to the original homesteader, 1836. Grandpa started our farm in roughly 52. So anyway, back to this. When we were saying there was something here, I get on that picture. 1954 was the first picture that it showed of this property. On other parcels I got 1950, but 1954, there was a house, a barn, a whole small woods, probably 5 to 7 acres of woods right here, right in the middle of the property. And it was total validation, because I remember picking chunks of concrete up back here, and it's just, there's nothing here. It's just a little hole. You can see it from the drone a little bit, but also that's right in line with this driveway. So that driveway was an original driveway that had been here way back when. That's probably, this was their farm. They built right in the center of it. My grandpa's house there, and another house got put there. Next picture was 1957. I'm zooming in here and I'm going to circle what I'm trying to get you to look at. The house was gone. You can barely see it. And it was common, a lot of them burned down. When I do a piece on my grandfather's original farm, well, that might be next. That was when he was real young, 1946. He had a barn burned down, burned all the animals. They said a cat knocked a lantern over, and that was the end of that. So this next picture, you're going to see the house is gone, and the field, if you notice, it's cut into like 5 different fields. You know, this is like 80 acres tillable because part of it's that woods. And then where my grandpa's house was, there's a cluster of trees there. So they, you know, back then they couldn't handle a big 100-acre field, so they had it pieced off into different pieces. Oh, but take a look at this out here. Here's where here's where it is. This is probably, if you dug there, there'd be a well in there, because this is a lot higher. It's draining down that way. But nonetheless, next picture, 1960. Okay, no, here's just I wanted to give you a benchmark. So that was 57. Next picture, 1968, Grandpa buys. Okay, and then it jumps in some pictures. You can't really see as many. They just jump in year. It pretty much goes right to 82. If you look at 82, the drive's still there. There's only the barns left. It's a big hip roof barn, looked like a cattle barn. No trees. By that point in 82, Grandpa had built his house, dug his pond. You can see that, and to the north property, fields cut into 2 fields. So in 82, Grandpa was cut it down, and he could handle 2 different fields out here. Extremely interesting stuff. I used to ride around with my grandpa quite a bit as he got older, and I asked him a lot of questions. Trust me, you're younger, you do, but you know, I didn't know what I'd be doing, you know, in life like I am now, that I would want to be so intrigued by this history. I never asked him about every particular piece of property. There's just no way I would have. So now that my uncles are older, and you know, they'd have been too young really to remember what he was doing and how he was doing it. But I will say this, the next picture in 87, the drive and barn are gone, and my dad, I did ask him about it, and he doesn't offer up too much information. You know, he doesn't know what you're thinking. You got to ask and ask. He says there was a pile of tires out here in this woods, and the debris removal was constantly, you were constantly doing it, and the wet hole never did pile up. What I got turned on in the history is, if you've been with me for a while, 6 years ago we lost my mom unexpectedly. Well, she was mentored by my grandmother, you know, Jean B. That's what you'll see on all these papers I show you. It's John E. and Jean B. Sigler, husband and wife. They were a team from the beginning documents I found from 46 all the way to the end. They were on every document together. It wasn't just him. Well, when they passed away, my mom, who was taught by her, got all the papers, and we unexpectedly lost her 6 years ago, if you guys remember that. And I got left with all this information, all of this history, original copies, not necessarily worth anything, but look at this. Look at this. Look at that. I couldn't plan that if I tried. We got a horseshoe. But anyway, I'll take that with me. But yeah, here's the 1968 paperwork. John E. and Jean B. But anyway, I got left with an unbelievable amount of paperwork, and it wasn't overly organized at all. So I started piecing it together the last few years. I've been wanting to put these videos together, and then as I got online, I found some registry of the deeds online records. It really helped put the pieces together for me more. So yeah, hopefully they're looking down and they're laughing if I'm getting something wrong. But like I told my wife, when I was trying to get all the information on this as accurate as possible, because I know I might have grandkids someday looking back on this, and this is what they're going to have to look at. So it's got to be as accurate, it's got to be as right as you can, and that's my goal. I mean, look at the field stone in here. They're just, you know, there was something here. This is probably where the barn was. think the barn was straight on with that driveway. It was sitting right here. I don't know. You just, so historic aerials, you guys, it's a pretty good site. You got to buy photos on there because they got copyright written all over them, so you can't really see it real well. But other than that, I think I covered about everything. So if you got your hands on some things like that, documents, it's takes some digging, but it's well worth it to learn the history. And so this was the farm, the Clark farm, back in the 50s. So I mean, if that was when it was sold in the 68, so it's hard telling. I guess you could even, but they're not really my family, so I'm not. If you know some Clarks from K-Pac, maybe you know exactly who I'm talking about. It was an estate. I think they had the guy's son name on there too. But Johnny and Gene B. So this is the first parcel I'm going over, historic 1968. There'll be plenty more. I think the next video is going to be Grandma and Grandpa's first start, maybe the history, give you a whole layout of who they were and how they were, of, you know, World War II, but even before that, because I was left with some documents a couple years ago after my oldest uncle died, Uncle Jack, rest in peace. His wife, she dropped me off a bunch of things from my grandpa's Marine Corps days, his burial flag. I was just completely shocked and honored that she would do that. I mean, I'm one of 20-some grandkids probably. But I say the boys and I, we were closest with Grandpa only because we were the son of the guy that took the farm over Dad. I mean, we were around him. Everybody else kind of moved away. But I've got Grandpa's birth certificate. I've got when he got discharged out of the Marines. I've got his service records. So, and Grandma was there the whole way, Gene B. So I'm excited to share that with you. History is important. These are the men and women that, without them, we wouldn't even be here. Now I'll add this horseshoe to my collection. Maybe I'll put a tag on it. So where I found it, Clark Farm, 1968 or sooner. So you know one thing, they had horses out here. Yeah, I had some cars go by, not too many. It's pretty private over here, but I'm out here with this folder. One guy asked if I needed any help. I said, no, I'm just doing some testing out here. But yeah, there's that original driveway. So on that note, guys, these beans, they're not looking too bad. Seen better, I've seen worse. Take care. See you next one.